So welcome, Ways into Words. We're just going to have a whistle stop 25 minutes looking at some of the key ways we can really support our children, whether that's as a teacher, as a tutor, or as a parent. So with no further ado, let's have a look at what that's going to look like. So we're going to really look at how we raise word consciousness, because that's our key really. It's all about raising word consciousness and being explicitly metacognitively aware of the vocabulary around us and how we use and manipulate and extend it with our children, whether that's in school or at home or in all of those different environments. I have to keep letting people into the lobby. Let's keep doing that. OK, so we're going to be guided by the research. It's really vital that everything we do in education and everything we do for our children has its roots and its evidence in research, so that we know we're doing what is needed to the best of our ability. We're going to explore extending that receptive and expressive vocabulary. So that means the words that our young people understand, but also the words that they're able to say themselves. And the two are not necessarily the same. And we'll know that from all of our activities around reading and what happens in the classroom and at home. We're going to look at how the value of song and music, and we're going to have some time for questions at the end. OK, oh my gosh, it's saying it's not sharing anymore. Why is it not sharing anymore? Right, OK. I don't know why it's not sharing anymore. Let me stop the share and then try and restart the share. Every time you let someone in, it goes off. Right. OK. Maybe we have to keep the door shut. Maybe we have to keep the door shut. Don't know how we do that, but anyway. OK. Is that now sharing again? It tells me I'm presenting, so hopefully that's a big yes. Let's move on to the next slide, and hopefully you can see a picture of Pixar and all the Pixar characters. Give me a thumbs up, somebody. Can we see that now? So let's carry on with this from Pixar. So Pixar said, when they were asked about making movies, they said it's literally tens of thousands of ideas that go into every Pixar movie. It's about every sentence and every line, every design of character, the sets, the camera angles, the backgrounds, the lighting, the colour, the pacing, and that every single member of their 250 people team make a difference. They make suggestions. And that's how it is for us with our young people and vocabulary. It really is about seizing every little tiny opportunity to boost a powerful voice and boost what we do with vocabulary and how we make sure that words are a really rich, carpeted environment for our young people to grow up with. And we do that in schools and we do that at home, and we try and do that as adults in the world of words to try and boost life chances for our young people, because it really is about developing a voice so that they can understand and listen and receive that sort of wealth of words and raising word consciousness. We know, of course, that all of our testing points along the journey of school for our young people, it's about ability with language. It's about understanding. So the more we can bring this Pixar idea of bringing in our tens of thousands of ideas to every opportunity, the more likely we are to make a difference. OK. So what does the research tell us? What does the research tell us? Well, it tells us in 2006, Apthorpe looked at 3 key elements of vocabulary instruction, and there's a whole plethora of research out there that we could look at, but I want to look in this short time at these 3 in particular. One is how important it is to define and explain, and we can do that really simply in the home environment. We can do that in school environment. We can encourage the definition and explanation from others. It doesn't just have to be adult-child relationship. It can be about exploring and unpicking vocabulary as a group. it's about frequent encounters, and he very usefully gives us this concept of the number 6. So at least 6 exposures to a new word is really going to make the difference for our young people in terms of embedding and getting those key terms, that key vocabulary, into our receptive and our expressive vocabulary. And it's also about encouraging that real deep active processing of words in a range of contexts, because if we meet something just in one context, it doesn't necessarily translate to others. So if you're only coming across words in some texts, it might not go across into other contexts. If we're only looking at some words in one particular setting, it might not translate to another. Bear with me, I've got a few more people in the lobby. I'm just going to let them all in and then try and reshare. Hello, welcome. If you've just joined in, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. Apparently, when I let people in from the lobby, it stopped sharing. So I'm just going to stop and restart to be triply sure that it's doing what I want it to do. OK, so I hope that you can now see that slide that says research recommendations. So we've just gone through that. If you've joined us a bit later, don't worry, this is being recorded so we can share it with you. OK, so that's what we need to really add depth to our understanding of vocabulary and how we go about delivering that to our young people. OK. So we're going to have a look at a few quick wins with vocabulary, and this is one of the biggest. If we can look at the etymology, the roots of our vocabulary, of our word system, then we give our young people a much bigger chance of understanding and unpicking more complex vocabulary as they grow, and certainly as they move from Key Stage 2 to 3, that big avalanche of academic vocabulary that arrives. If we have understood and unpicked some of the Latin and Greek stems in our language, then we've given our young people a real fighting chance to be able to unpick some of those key words. So if we know, for instance, that bene, B-E-N-E, means good, then we're able to unpick words like benefactor and beneficial. If we know that sub means under, then suddenly submarine and subtract make a lot more sense. The same with struct, meaning build, as in construct, deconstruction, instruct. And so it's a really good exercise to have a bit of fun with etymology. And there's a lot of websites out there that will help you with this. And there's a lovely infographic there with the tree. But things like that with roots coming up into the stems really help embed in a sort of visual image-based way. So have a look at what you can do with Latin and Greek stems at whatever age your children are that you encounter, whether that's at home. You know, you can do all sorts of little bits with the words anti or past or miss, and then building up that gives them a much better chance of unpicking and understanding that when they get a bit further along their educational journey. We're actually within Chatters, we're working really hard on a new etymology puzzle, and that's going to be out in the autumn term. So have a look out for that around September, late September, October time. That'll be something coming along to sit in our puzzle bank. This is another really lovely way of looking at vocabulary and trying to build that visual working memory for our children. So calligrams, first seen in the 1930s apparently, are basically poems or little pieces of artwork that capture vocabulary. So as simple as the word shark, that you make it turn into a shark, through to the beautiful poetry that you can see in the umbrella or in the rainbow or in the leaf. And there's a double win here. Dr. Jessie Ricketts tells us that to understand and embed vocabulary, it really helps for it to be visual. If you see the word as you're learning it, it's a much better chance that it will embed and become part of not just your receptive, but also your expressive vocabulary. So things like calligrams are a really fun visual way of making that come to life. So have a play with words, see what you can do. There's all sorts around noun choice that you can do with. I've seen lovely ones for elephant or giraffe. You can do all sorts of things with nature, as you've got here with the leaf and the rainbow, but also you can come up with all sorts of other shapes and try and get all sorts of synonyms in there and turn it into a form of poetry. It's a really lovely activity to do with your children at home or in the classroom, make some great displays. The feelings wheel, if you haven't come across it, is a really lovely tool for all sorts of reasons, not least of which is vocabulary. Actually, it goes much wider than this. If you haven't come across the feelings wheel, have a look. There's the website there. You can just go on and download this for yourself. But as you can see from the inner wheel, you've got the most familiar, if you like, or the sort of tier 2 vocabulary around emotion: happy, bad, fearful, angry. And then as you go out through the wheel, you'll see that the vocabulary begins to be a bit more specific, and they build the synonyms around each of those emotions. So moving on from happy, well, why are you happy? Is it because you're joyful? Are you creative? Are you thankful? And it gives those layers of meaning, that connotation behind key emotions that are so important to really pinpoint nuance. That's what it's all about, is unpicking nuance, so that we're able to understand the difference between feeling bitter or aggressive. And that's what underpins so much of our assessment system. And that's why vocabulary, to be able to express that, is so vital for our young people. So have a look at the feelings wheel. It's a really good visual resource for us to use wherever we are, whether we're at home, tutoring, or in school. And here's another one of my favourites, which is singing. Now, I'm not going to burst into song, don't panic, but I have a big love of singing and the potential of singing to improve voice in terms of our vocabulary, but also our reading development and our cognition and our comprehension. There's a lot of research out there that says singing, from nursery rhymes to folk tunes to Stormzy to Adele, is a brilliant way of embedding vocabulary and sentence structures and making them your own. There's a real lovely, repetitive, familiar, melodic essence to song and to music that really helps us embed vocabulary. So if you haven't got singing with your kids, and if you're here and you've got some stinky year 10s, then I understand maybe why you haven't done that. But you can use song in lots of different ways. If the children that you are with aren't that keen on singing, you can listen. You can do lots and lots of listening and listen with the lyrics. Lyrics are just another form of poetry, so it's a really lovely way of looking at a whole wide range of language, but the melodies and the rhythms tend to lend themselves to making them embed and making them really memorable, and committing them to that receptive and expressive vocabulary. There's also something lovely around assonance and poetic device that we see in songs and in music. For instance, Adele, you might find, has got a lot of idiom, and Stormzy has got a lot of metaphor. So there's all sorts you can do to pull out really interesting, teachable moments from songs. So don't lose sight of how important they are. They're actually just as important as reading books, because it does add to your capacity for reading and it adds to your reading time. And there's a lot of research that says the more you read, the better you are at reading and the wider your vocabulary. It is a time issue. The more you do it, the better it is. Doesn't seem to be rocket science, does it? But that's key. OK, whizzling on, because what are we now? 17 minutes past 7. So time's whizzing on. Next one, and next quick win really, is about noun choice. So the humble noun is actually a really important element of our vocabulary development and our capacity to do well at exam points, at test points, but also to have a really powerful, specific voice. If you know an oak tree or a birch tree or a holly tree, and you write about that or you speak about that, it adds so much specificity to what you say and how you express yourself that you add so many more layers of meaning. I've worked as a Key Stage 2 moderator, I've worked as a GCSE examiner, and certainly the writing that talks about a sycamore tree as opposed to the tree, or talks about the robin as opposed to the bird, or talks about the polar bear as opposed to the bear, has much greater depth to it. And that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming to give real meaning and clarity and depth to our verbal expression and also our writing. Pi Corbett tells us if you can say it, you can write it. And it's so key to our ability to do well and be successful that we have this deep vocabulary, because that allows us to express specifically what it is we want to say. So don't forget the humble noun, because it's a really useful and important part of developing vocabulary. It's not all around adjective choice. It's very much about nouns as well. And we'll just have a look at a few more. There we go. There's a few bears. So you can turn these into quizzes. You can say, OK, let's have a go. Who can name these 8 types of bear? You can turn it into interesting bits of information. Here's residential sales, so house names. What were the most popular house names? Looks like it was a wren. No, it was a robin. OK, so the road or the house name with robin in it, it was the most popular. But there you go. There's a whole range of bird names for you. You can do all sorts of games with it, with Deadly 60. That's a great game to play to boost vocabulary. And if we were all in a room together, which we might be at some point in the next few webinars, I'm going to try and work that out. Then we were going to have a go at trying to name different types of hat. So I had a look at it, and there are actually about 45 different types of hat. Do you know there are over 100 different names for pasta? So we've got all sorts of depth in our noun choice, and it's something that we can be really mindful of and try and help our young people to understand through games and quizzes and the fun stuff that they're going to really help them remember. Here's another fun game to play to build up vocabulary and talk, which is a choose your bank. So here's one for choose your beach. Which one would you choose? And then that you can have a whole conversation about that. That's a really good starter activity, something you can play in the car on your way on holiday. And there's all sorts of other, tasks around that. You could do one on your favourite holiday, choose your home, choose your outfit, choose your Amazon delivery. That all helps build noun choice and talk skills. So there's another quick win game idea. And in terms of our ability to collaborate, that really is coming back to our Pixar idea, one of the key parts of developing vocabulary. The more we do, the more we understand, the more cultural capital we manage to include in our children's life. And we can do that through the actual activity. We can go to theatres, we can go and see authors talk, we can go to music festivals, or we can do it through story. And we have to remember that there's a whole section of society for whom these activities aren't necessarily an easy path. So if we can't do the actual thing, we can do it through story, we can do it through drama. But all of those activities there are talk and vocabulary builders. And it's absolutely what we were saying from Pixar, that we need to expose our young people to as much of the world as we possibly can, and bring in the colour and the different camera angles and the different music and the different sounds, because that's where vocabulary lives. That's where we talk, that's where we share. And then it's about being really explicit in that vocabulary so that you can unpick, what does that mean? Look at that bird. What is that tree? What you're seeing on a stage, what you're listening to, what a nature walk takes you through. So it's about collaboration with all those different myriad of ideas. And if you can't do it for real, do it through story, do it through drama and activity, and use image and poems and text as the catalyst for that. Because that's where we're heading. So this is the AQA GCSE descriptor for AO5, which is the writing descriptor, and it talks about you need a convincing and compelling voice. And by the time our young people get to the age of 16, that's what they need to be able to do. They need to be able to convince and compel with their range of vocabulary. And that starts from the moment they can listen and hear and talk. And it's a gentle road of exposure to all those different aspects that we were talking about. But us being really explicit and metacognitive about understanding that this is what makes the difference. This is what allows you to captivate, to reason, to mesmerize with your words. This is what allows you to be emphatic, cogent, eloquent in the way that you discuss and the way that you write, because if you can say it, you can write it. And the biggest barrier for many of us is our young people can't say it. So let's give them every opportunity to be convincing and compelling as they grow. And let's go and be astronauts, which literally means star sailor. How beautiful is that? So astro for star is the Greek, and naut meaning sailor. So an astronaut is a star sailor, and that's what we can do with language. So that's where ChatterStars was born. That's our endeavour, is to try and help you on that journey. Check out what we're up to. There's all sorts of webinars coming along now. We've got another one soon with Pobble. We're going to be looking at image. We've got one with Poetry by Heart. We're looking at poetry, and then our other partner Twinkle, we're going to be looking at a whole wealth of resources for that as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and then hope that there might be a few questions and people might want to just have a quick chat about a few bits. Why isn't it asking me to stop sharing my screen? That's annoying. Anyway. Okay. Oh. I hope that you all heard all of that. I've been chatting away. That all came across. Any questions? Anyone want to share anything? Good, people are saying they've heard that, so that's good. It's always strange sitting in your kitchen just talking at your computer, but that's good that you heard it. Lovely to see lots of you here. Thank you so much for joining me. The recording will be there. Candy's got a hand up. Hi, Candy. Oh, how do I unmute you? Oh. Allow mic. There we go. I've done it. Allow mic. Sorry, Candy. I've managed to do it. Hello.
Yeah. Hello there. Thank you very much for that. That was great. I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned the Deadly 60 game, and I just wondered what that was.
Yeah, Deadly 60 is a really fun game. So it's one of those a bit like Top Trumps. It's Steve Batchel, isn't it? And he's done a whole load of Top Trump cards around Deadly 60. So because it's animals, obviously you've got all of that noun choice there. And it's just a quick game, you know, of which animal is the deadliest, which is the most poisonous, which is the biggest, which is the most ferocious. And it's just that kind of card game like Top Trumps, but it's a Deadly 60 version of that.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. And Uma. Hi, Uma. Thank you for joining us.
Hi. Thank
Hello.
you for. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing all the very important stuff that you've shared. I just have a question. I have a 10-year-old and he's reading Harry Potter now, and he's
Yep.
coming across words which he wants to know the meaning, but he doesn't have the patience because he wants to know what's going to happen next. In the very next line, he wants to know. So by the time I actually explain and read out the meaning to him, he's, I think half the time I've lost his interest. How do I get that interest? Because once he knows the meaning of the word, like you're talking about getting it from the root, understanding whether it's a noun or a verb and how it has actually been used in the sentence. So that kind of thing I'm really not able to understand, because he doesn't want to pick up the dictionary. He knows how to look up the words meanings in the dictionary, but he's like so much into the reading that he doesn't have the patience to actually
Well,
wait and find out.
I think that's a lovely problem to have. How brilliant that he's so desperate to find out what's next. That's really good. If he's fascinated by the book, you're winning already. So that's great. There's a couple of things you could do there, and a few things I've seen work really successfully in schools. One of which is to have a reading bookmark. So you might just have a bookmark that he could just quickly scribble down what the word is. And then you can revisit that bookmark together and look at maybe 5-6 words at a time. The other thing is he could, if you let him, he could just have a highlighter next to him. And as he's reading it, if there was a word that he thought, I'm not sure, just highlight it in the book. That can work as well. And then the two of you can go through and have a conversation about it later. I don't think you should stop him. I think that's right. Let him read on. And very often our ability to sort of read around helps us with the word we didn't understand. So he might have a bit more of a clue once he's read a bit more anyway. But either a reading bookmark, or if he's allowed, a little highlighter to highlight the words, so you can revisit that later.
Oh, lovely, lovely. I like the highlighter idea because I don't think he'll sit and scribble on this bookmark, but the highlighter is a good one. Yes, thank you. I'll like definitely use it.
Good. I'm glad that's helpful. It just depends how precious you are about wanting the book to stay pristine. I'm not a pristine book person. I write all over my books, but yeah, maybe a highlighter is good.
Yeah, no, lovely, lovely. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for joining us. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I want these to have a really informal, quick half-an-hour feeling. So please do join us for some more. They're coming up in June after half term. The next one, I think, is with Poetry by Heart. Keep an eye on all our social media so you can see what we're up to. And we'll be posting those links again if you didn't see them before. But if there aren't any other questions, then a huge thanks for everybody for coming along. And I'm sorry about some of the technical issues at the beginning. If you come to the next one, it'll probably be better. We'll probably get better as we go. But thanks, everybody. That was great. Have a nice evening.